The mention of his name brings back chilling memories of terror and fear. Now the bloody trail Jeffrey Dahmer left behind is featured in a new movie. Today, the only news reporter who was allowed inside Jeffrey Dahmer's House of Horrors. A victim's outraged mother who says she'll do whatever it takes to stop this movie, and she'll confront the Hollywood producers. Plus, a man who says he miraculously survived an encounter with Jeffrey Dahmer. He speaks out on national television for the very first time today. And it's all next right here on the Maury Povich Show. As soon as we saw the gruesome headlines, we knew it was bound to happen. The making of the movie about the cannibalistic serial killer Jeffrey Dahmer. Well, Hollywood has made it, but the families of the victims of Jeffrey Dahmer are stark, raving mad.
This is how you act when you are out of control.
That was my baby boy that you took away from me.
You almost destroyed me, and I hope you go to hell.
They are words of anguish and pain from the shattered families of Jeffrey Dahmer's victims.
Jeffrey, I hate you!
Almost a year after Milwaukee's darkest chapter, surviving families are struggling to move on. But Hollywood is putting a cog in this city's recovery. A new movie, which recreates the life of Jeffrey Dahmer, is ready for national distribution, and the families of Dahmer's victims are outraged. Jeffrey Dahmer, The Secret Life, is graphic, and the star Carl Crew has an uncanny likeness to the real thing. It's a film that these families would like to see shelved, a face Milwaukee would like to forget. Carl Crew is here with us today. Not only did he play the despicable Jeffrey Dahmer, but he also wrote this scary film. We will meet all of our guests in a few minutes, but first, Shirley Hughes, you didn't want to sit next to Carl, did you?
No.
Why?
Because it reminds me too much of he reminds me too much of Jeffrey Dahmer, and he's no better than Jeffrey Dahmer.
What do you mean he's no better than Jeffrey?
Because he's portraying this movie, and the things in it are not true, and he is killing the spirit. People don't know how emotional, physically, and mentally this is on us.
But surely,
and it's devastating.
But Jeffrey, we have to understand, Jeffrey Dahmer killed your son.
I know.
And we want our audience to know that.
Maury, the Jeffrey Dahmer story does not need to be told again. Milwaukee has been traumatized, the victims has been traumatized, and the people who appeared to be like buzzards who come in when something died to profiteer from this should not have the right to go forth and traumatize the victims again, Milwaukee again. It tarnishes the image of a very beautiful city with beautiful people.
This is Janetta Robinson, who runs a social service organization in Milwaukee, an organization which counsels families of Jeffrey Dahmer's victims. But I want to get back to Shirley. He's an actor right here. He's an actor.
Still, if he had any feelings or any emotion or concern about the families, how would you feel if it was your brother, your sister, your mother, or whatever being portrayed like this?
We are so tired of people, including the family members, making judgments about something they haven't seen. I mean, they've seen a little clip. You've seen a clip. You haven't seen the whole movie.
That's enough.
Well, we had you watch, as I understand it, Janetta and Shirley, some clips of the movie.
It's garbage. It's garbage.
Here we are.
It's not artistic.
Making a judgment when they haven't even have all the facts before them. This is so typical. It's so typical.
It's not true.
So
You don't have the facts.
your opinion.
If you had seen the entire film, then you could come and say, okay, well, we didn't like this, or this was wrong, or something. But no, you see one little clip and you make a judgment. This is one of the problems with our society. People make a judgment on something they don't have all the information.
No, the problem with our society is that
let's
people
not worry
like
about
you.
judgments that society should make right now. Let's talk about the specific making of this movie. I don't see much sensitivity you have to this mother of a person Jeffrey Dahmer cut up in his apartment. I don't see much sensitivity there, Carl.
Well, you probably haven't seen the entire film either. I
haven't seen any of it.
Right. Okay. Well, from the inception of the film, writing the film, there was a lot of sensitivity that I injected into the script. Okay. there was, we did not use the names of the victims. There was composite victims.
You didn't use names, but yet and still, we know who they are without names.
See, let me ask you a question. Do you think that you're any more special than the other families of other victims that have been killed by other serial killers that have had movies made on them?
Well, they waited 10 years. Right. They didn't. They waited a while. And let me tell you something.
That's a bunch of baloney. Nobody's waited 10 years.
But you didn't
that's
care.
ridiculous.
You jump right in to profiteer.
This was a huge story.
Another thing, if you cared, you wouldn't have done it in secret. Why did you do it in secret?
Let's talk about profiteering.
Wait a second. Let's get some facts here. This is David Bowen, our other guest. He's the producer and director of the movie. Carl has written the movie and is starring in the movie. All right.
I mean, we're movie makers. We came in to make a story that was about a very high-profile subject.
You're not telling the truth, though. It's not true. That's what you're portraying.
How do you know? You haven't seen it.
How do you know? You haven't seen it.
You saw 30 seconds of it.
Your son, Shirley, is not even in the movie, period.
Well, let's answer the question that Janetta raised, though. Why make this movie in secret? As I understand it, the people in Milwaukee, you all didn't even know about this movie until 2 weeks ago?
Right.
2 weeks ago.
You said it a moment ago when you said the movie was a movie about Jeffrey Dahmer, or movies were certainly going to be made. There's no question about it. This is one of the biggest news stories in history, particularly in the last couple of years.
We know that.
So
we know that. But why didn't you come to the families to get the truth? Why do you want to do it in secret?
We jumped in to do this movie as quickly as possible to try to get it out.
Oh, a rush job.
Absolutely a rush job.
Well, if you rush it, how much sensitivity can you give to the movie?
No.
How can you be sure of the facts? And better yet, why didn't you come to these families and ask for their cooperation?
Very good reasons for not coming to the families. Extraordinarily good reasons. When we did our research, Maury, we found out that the families found out the same information that we did from the same sources that we did. They didn't know where their children were, or their young adult males, any more than any of the rest of the people.
So your research was based on newspaper stories and courtroom transcripts.
Which was
public domain.
Maury, Carl, boys, respect me enough, let me have something to say. The public domain research that you read were lies. It portrayed these young people. It portrayed these people as someone running around as hustlers.
That's nothing but your rhetoric. The public domain newspaper stories.
He was a decent human being.
But that doesn't have to do with what went on in 213, Janetta. Has nothing to do. Absolutely nothing to do with what went on in 213.
Wait a second.
These were Jews, Asians, and blacks that were killed.
Janetta,
racism.
we've just started. We've got a whole show to do here.
I feel very deeply about this, Maury. It's real to us. It's not a play. It's not acting. This is serious. And America is trying to heal.
Do you not want a movie done?
No, we don't want the movie done.
You don't want a movie done?
No.
And yet they say they want to make a movie about their kids.
But not about the garbage that you all are talking about.
But let me ask you this.
You want a movie about folks like you who run around
what kind of truth?
People like
what kind of truth do you think you could add to a movie that's not already out there? What insight do you have about Jeffrey Dahmer that's not out there? Did you know Jeffrey Dahmer?
About my son?
Did you?
What insight do you have about my son?
Is your son starring in this movie?
Wait a
No,
second.
he's not.
I think she probably has a closer feeling towards Jeffrey Dahmer in her own way than any movie maker.
That's true. But on the other hand, what information could she add to the screenplay that we don't already know, that we were able to get?
Information about my son and Jeffrey Dahmer.
How do you
That's
know?
what I could
How do
say.
we know?
You didn't use your son in the movie.
And you didn't even come and ask the families anything.
For what?
You looked at,
For what?
Well, so you could have the truth. These was
What
Wait a
truth
second.
do you
Wait a
have
second,
to
Janetta.
add?
Why do you think they didn't want your cooperation? Why do you
they
think
didn't come because they wanted to greedy, sleazeball type stuff, so they could rush in silently
Now, wait
make
a second.
movie.
Would it have been different, Shirley, if they would have said, okay, we want to pay you for your participation?
It's not about the money.
It's not about money.
It's not about the money.
What is it about?
It's about the decency to have respect for our loved ones and to come and talk with us about it.
You've traumatized these people. You have hurt them more than Jeffrey Dahmer.
We've got a long way to go today.
Jeffrey Dahmer, number 2.
This is our only subject today. We have a long way to go. Now then, Jeffrey Dahmer strangled 17 men. Then he sexually molested the corpses, mutilated the bodies. But just how explicit does the Hollywood movie get? When we return, we're going to show you a scene that might make you shiver after this. That was a scene from the not-yet-released movie Jeffrey Dahmer, The Secret Life, and I heard a lot of ooh and like this. We don't like this, huh? Don't like this? 17 of his victims were not lucky enough to escape. They were dismembered, boiled, bleached, painted, and kept as souvenirs. People ready to see this, David?
Well, I think so. There's a huge curiosity for this movie. Some surveys have shown almost a 50% profile of people that would pay to go see this movie in certain markets. It's a story that's going to be told. There's no question about it. It has to be told. There's too much curiosity about it.
You are pandering to the sickest people in society.
That's right.
What is wrong with you? You're disgusting. Both of you.
Here we have another woman, another person who has made a judgment. You've made a judgment on a little tiny clip. You don't even know that person got away in that clip, do you?
You have more sensitivity to the killer than you do to the parents.
How do you know? No, how do you know that? You don't know that. You're assuming that. You're assuming that.
Look at you. You're not sorry.
How do you know that?
Pandering to the sickest.
You know what I'm sorry? I'm sorry.
You don't know that word. And if they didn't think about it before, you're getting them ideas.
She just said, as people were applauding what she said, that you are encouraging people.
Encouraging people to do what?
To imitate Jeffrey Dahmer.
See, okay, you know what? People have made that comment, oh, this is going to spawn copycat killings and all that. No. Name me one movie that was made about a serial killer that did that, okay?
This one will.
Can you do that?
This one will.
No, you can't. You cannot do that.
It's going to hurt the race relations. Dahmer happened to have been white. All the folks that wrote these books happen to be white. And the comic book, and now the movie producers, you are profiting off of the suffrage of other people, and that's something evil and wrong about that.
I want to find out something. The only person I know around here today who actually saw and maybe even spoke to Jeffrey Dahmer is you, Shirley, right? He was in your house.
My daughter. Right? He was at my granddaughter's birthday party. Right. And he knew my son for almost 3 years. And my son wasn't out on the street. He wasn't a pickup. He had a good job.
Right.
And Jeffrey Dahmer was supposed to be his friend. And people don't understand. This is very devastating. And how can we go on with our lives and heal when people like this is forever bringing it up?
What did he do to your son?
He drugged him, and then he strangled him. He said he wasn't intending to kill him, that he just didn't wake up the next morning.
Drugged him and strangled him.
And then after the police took this Laotian boy back, Tony's body was already in the apartment. And then he disposed of both of them at the same time.
Did he cut up the body, do you know?
Yeah, he said he did.
And to replace such a horrible suffrage with the victims, every time we began to bring the victims to a point where they are recovering,
you're making points here that
balls come forth with comic books
These two guys.
And books.
Hey, let me stop that right there, okay?
These two guys.
Let's talk about how explicit this movie is, okay? For you, too. Okay, number one, excuse me, madam. Number one.
You just saw a person touched with an axe.
Oh, did you see the axe go into the body? Did you see anything happen? No, you didn't. You don't know that person got away in that clip. Now, as far as the comic book
wait
is
a second.
concerned,
Let me butt in here. Do you think a movie should not be made, or a different kind of movie should be made?
I don't think a movie showing that kind of violence should be made. We are already in a violent society.
That's your opinion. And everyone's left.
Children are being molested day after day after day. What do you think that is?
See, the funny thing is, the double standard, the oxymoron here, is that all these people, they pay and go see movies. Excuse me, madam.
That is bad.
They go see and pay for movies, and there's movies right now out there that are far more violent than this. Far more violent.
Yeah, but they're not portraying real kind of movies.
Oh, yes, they are. Some of them are.
They're not portraying real
Here's something that I like to say.
And you're looking for the money.
Number
Of
one.
course, we're filmmakers. That's what we do for a living.
I tell you what, we're going to try to make sure you don't have a living. We're going to Universal Studios and MGM and tell them not to distribute your film. This is your first film, I understand. We hope it will be your last. You won't be able to make a living.
Wait a second. This movie has not been sold, has it?
Parts of this certain rights of this movie have been sold.
To the American public?
Yes.
What does that mean?
This movie will be out.
It will be out.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Is it? You have a distributor?
Yes.
We're negotiating with 5 right now.
5 distributors? Major Hollywood studios or not?
Many majors.
Why didn't you get a backer to start with?
We wanted to make this with private money, and we did.
Oh, good.
We did not seek.
Maybe we should know who the investors are. So maybe the public should know who the investors are. Who are the investors?
Well, I don't think that we're privileged to give you that
It's supposed to be a great movie that's educating the public. Why not? I mean, I heard
Here's a point that I would like to make to everyone, because I think this is a very important point about this. All the families, and obviously most of this audience, is in an uproar about this movie. But the situation
understandable, don't you think?
The situation is this.
Yeah.
This is a movie that does have some social consciousness.
none.
Well, that's your opinion.
You're making a judgment.
Look,
You have 17 men, Maury,
right,
and an additional 15 that we know of, people that escaped, that were living a very high-risk lifestyle.
Here's my problem. I understand this. Here is my problem.
You don't know that. You don't know that.
I know that.
You don't know that.
Here's
No,
my
you
problem
don't.
with the movie.
You don't know that.
I believe so much in the First Amendment of this Constitution. I think it is inviolate. It is immutable. It should not be tampered with.
Amen.
For people to say, you have no right to make this movie, I have a problem with that. However, the kind of movie that is made, I think everyone can understand, is very important to them.
Absolutely.
Of course. Very important to them.
Absolutely.
And to give you two guys the trust to make the definitive Jeffrey Dahmer movie is I think, the bigger question. We'll be back in a moment because we're going to find out, and you'll have a chance to answer, the reporter who broke the Dahmer story. And she was the only reporter allowed inside Dahmer's House of Horrors. And she's going to tell us just how accurate this Hollywood movie is after this.
The man at the center of all this, Jeffrey Dahmer, lives in that building back there, Disciplinary Segregation 2. Now, he has a job mopping and sweeping up floors, and prison officials hope that eventually he'll be able to mix with the general population.
Now, Annie Schwartz of WISN-TV in Milwaukee, our affiliate in Milwaukee, was the only journalist allowed inside Jeffrey Dahmer's apartment. She wrote of the horror she saw in this book, and it's called The Man Who Could Not Kill Enough. So how accurate, Annie, do you think this movie is?
Boy, it's hard to say because all I've seen of the movie are the trailers, are the things that they send out for promotions on this movie. It's very graphic. This is not the first time, obviously, that I've seen Shirley and Janetta. I covered the trial, and I've covered them quite a great deal back in Milwaukee. And I can imagine the kind of pain to see this depicted. However, I think that it's unrealistic for us to think that movies and books are not going to come out of a case like this.
Well, of
personally,
course.
I'm offended by what I've seen. I've written a book.
You're offended by what you've seen of the movie?
I am. It's very graphic. I think that we can tell the story of Jeffrey Dahmer. I think that we can, in the book, I didn't focus on the gore of this case. I didn't focus on the actual details of the crimes, although I did mention it.
Annie, we love you, but we hate the book you wrote. Don't you think it gives the wrong impression of a beautiful city with a lot of wonderful, intelligent people?
No, wait a minute. But, Janetta, you cannot ignore the fact that this heinous, terror, crime spree, this murder spree existed.
And you cannot ignore the fact that most of the things that are written in these books and the movies are incorrect. They did not go to the sources.
Was Annie's
to the
book incorrect?
Yeah, Annie's book is incorrect because they take it from other writers and their perspective is from. Okay, I love Annie. Annie happens to also write from what she see in terms of in the journal, Milwaukee.
She did.
She did not see
see the murder. She wasn't there.
Neither did you.
Okay, but I was there before.
Quit acting as if you did.
I was there before Annie was there because I was with the families from day one, helping heal their suffering.
She was there the night it happened.
She wasn't there in the perspective of helping heal the suffering of the victims.
Janetta,
It's two
just wait a
different
minute.
things.
Let me ask you this, Annie. You're the only reporter who was allowed inside that apartment.
That's right.
What did it look like?
You know, I think that we want our serial killers in their apartments to look, we want our serial killers to look like
As
Charles
ghoulish
Manson. We
as
want
they
them to, their pupils to do spirals. We want them to look crazy. And I think that that needs to be the lesson of Jeffrey Dahmer, is the fact that he didn't look crazy. That's why he was so able to persuade people to come with him. I think that that's what people need to get out of this
So the
case.
apartment was...
The apartment was normal. It looked like a regular single man's apartment. There was nothing remarkable about the living area, which is right what you see when you open the door.
And what
was hidden is what would later become the horror of this entire case.
So in the corners of this apartment or in different areas?
In the closets, in the refrigerator, this is very hard because I'm sitting up here with Shirley, and I know that the pain of having this dredged up over and over is not easy to talk about.
Well, why talk about it then, Annie?
Shirley,
why
I wanted
talk about it?
I wanted to write the book because
why talk about it?
Because I wanted there to be at least one recollection. I saw the headlines on the tabloid newspapers. I saw the first books that came out, which I noticed the gentleman here from the movie have with them, that were grossly inaccurate. I'm sure you know that.
Yeah.
And I wanted there at least, if there's going to be a book done, why not have a book done that's an accurate account with accurate information?
If they want to know,
with research.
Why do you have to sit up here and talk about it today?
I think that it's important to talk about it, Shirley. I think that if we don't talk about it, it's doomed to happen again and again.
And Annie, you know what has happened? Every movie maker, every comic book person, every playing card people that's making money, they all sit and say, this is done for the good of the people.
Oh,
to educate people. And Martha says, it's good. Slavery was good. It was good to bring them from Africa.
You're bringing a totally racial thing and has nothing to do with it.
You're white, we're black. The blacks are killed, and you writing.
Calm
You're
down.
making money off of it.
Janetta?
It does.
Calm down, Janetta. Thank you.